Welcome to the RPGBOT.Podcast. I'm Randall James, and with me is Tyler Kamstra.
Hi, everybody.
And Ashley Lai.
Monster. She's my favorite monster. No? Just me? Okay.
I don't know that one.
I don't know that one either. I don't know what that says about you or us.
I'm the only one who has watched Peacemaker on HBO. Fair enough. All right.
I have not seen it. I've only watched the intro several times because several times people have walked up to me with phones holding them in front of face saying, you have to watch this right now.
It's great. It's fantastic. Okay. If you like James Gunn, watch it.
It's an interesting premise.
Link in the show notes, I guess.
Getting started already.
We don't need to put a link in the show notes for that. Just go to HBO Max.
According to Apple Podcasts, yes, we do, because it was discussed on the podcast. They have rules and don't enforce them even a little bit.
But we follow the rules. We believe in rules. We believe in mechanics. Sometimes we have to adjust these things, though.
Yeah, yes.
You guys are what they call narcs, is what you are.
Is this teacher's pets? I don't know.
No, I think narc is the most accurate one.
Apple, please notice me. Is that a thing?
Wouldn't that be nice?
Notice me, senpai? I don't know. Yeah.
All right, Tyler, what's happening?
We have an advanced copy of the Monster Core for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. So this is the third in the trio of core rulebooks for the Pathfinder Remaster. We're very excited, and we're going to look at what's in it today.
I love the way that you phrase that. We have an advanced copy, like there was a D on the end. It's like this copy, it's better than any other copy. Like you guys, you're going to get the boring, like the baseline. It's only going to have two covers, like a front and a back with paper in the middle. You should see ours.
It's got the elite template. It's great.
Yeah.
It just says, you just open it, it just says, lol, losers, check archives of methods.
The search doesn't work in the back. The other thing I love about this is you said it's the third in the trio. My favorite thing about the trio is we're getting the fourth book during the summer. We'll get Player Core 2.
It's an expansion.
It is.
It's an expansion, but we'll get Monster Core 2 someday, I'm sure.
Yeah. Okay, so let's hit reset on this thing. No. This is exciting. We are going to go a little bit in the Wayback Machine, way back to 2 Januaries ago, the OGL fiasco with D&D. Why are we getting a Monster Core that has a lot of the monsters from Bestiary 1 from Pathfinder, a few monsters from Bestiary 2, a few monsters from Bestiary 3, with some cool changes? We're getting this because Paizo looked at the landscape and said, we don't want to be on top of the OGO anymore. It's not reliable. We want to have our own product. And with this, the publishing of the third book in the trio, they've done it. There is now a complete book set for the player, for the GM, and a set of monsters that stands alone, completely independent of any Hasbro or WotC licenses.
Actually, I think Tyler put it beautifully in the card. So if I may, I will do a dramatic reading.
Go.
A day may come when assault over the OGL fails, when we first forsake our very reasonable stance on the definition of perpetual and break all bonds of sanity. But it is not this day.
I'm glad you got that. Thank you. I felt so clever writing that. Folks, check the show notes on the Patreon episodes because we include the show outline in there, and I write jokes and swear words in them sometimes, and they're fun and they make me happy.
They're quite delightful. There's a lot of snark in a lot of them, so yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a family-friendly podcast when it's in text form on Patreon.
There you go.
Perfect. Yeah, the cards are not family-friendly. We just chew them, and this is what comes out.
Yeah.
So I feel like it makes sense before we hop into talking about okay, we have this new Monster Core. There's a lot of content we've seen before. A lot of it is in better shape. It fits the new rules of the remaster for Pathfinder 2. Before all of that, for folks who maybe haven't played Pathfinder 2, or at the very least haven't been behind a GM screen and therefore spent a lot of time looking at PF2 monster stat blocks, let's talk about why running monsters in PF2 is cool.
Yeah. My experience as a GM in PF2 is actually pretty limited. I've spent more time as a player at this point. All of the things that make playing a character fun in PF2 also apply to monsters. You still have that 3-action penalty. Every monster has a bunch of cool buttons to push. Every encounter feels unique because every creature is unique. There are almost no creatures that are just, here's a blob of hit points with teeth. One of the bigger criticisms of 5e, the monster design is very frequently super boring. PF2 doesn't have that problem.
having been going back and forth between PF2 and 5e, I run just as many 5e games as Pathfinder 2 at this point. Going back and seeing like these cool high level monsters, I'm like, cool, what does this thing have? Oh, it has a bite attack and a claw attack.
But it has a multi-attack at least, so it gets to do 2 things in a turn. That's great, right?
Oh, you mean the same thing that something like that has like 10 levels earlier? Cool. Yeah, Pathfinder 2, there's no competition. Pathfinder 2 monster design is leagues better than 5th edition. It's not even a contest. There's a lot of things where I will say, okay, this is what 5e does better. This is what Pathfinder 2 does better. No, if you're arguing that the 5th edition monsters even come close to the impeccable design of Pathfinder 2 monsters, you're full of it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The biggest thing also that I do really appreciate about the Pathfinder 2 monsters, the elegant level system that applies to everything, makes it really easy to design encounters. And it also makes running solo boss encounters very easy. In 5th edition, like I always feel like I have to add a ton more hit points and more legendary actions for it to even last around against most players, especially at higher levels. But in Pathfinder 2, that's never a problem. Just because of the way the math works out, if you put a high enough level monster difference between your players and it's going to feel just as brutal as you would want it to. And what's also cool is that if you put a really high level monster in front of low level players, they get their butts handed to them. And then they realize what a threatening monster it is. They work, they level, they come back, they fight that monster again, and suddenly they have a chance. There's a great sense of accomplishment there where you can't really achieve that in 5th edition.
Yeah, I mean, CR does its best, but, here we are. So, Tyler, you earlier stated the 3 action penalty, and I'm just going to talk about that for a second. So, Pathfinder 2, anybody who's listened to the podcast for a while and heard us talk about Pathfinder 2, we have the 3 action economy. So instead of having what 5e has in the action and the bonus action, instead you have 3 actions. Most regular attacks are single action actions, meaning you could attack 3 times in a turn. If you were standing next to a monster, you didn't need to move to get to them, something like this. Most spells and a lot of cool abilities are going to be 2 actions. And so in a lot of ways, like especially if you're a caster, things wind up feeling a little bit like, I kind of have something that feels like a 5e action, which is a 2 action thing. I kind of have this bonus action. For a lot of marshals, what makes playing marshals so much fun is that you have these actions. They have these traits that make them more interesting. If you succeed, your successes lead to more rewarding actions on the same turn. But ultimately, I can attack and attack and attack again. And then the multi-attack penalty is what kind of balances things out. We're not going to go into the weeds of that. If you played PF2, you know what we're talking about. If you haven't, it's a great game. You should. What I want to highlight here is playing monsters. One of the things that drives me crazy, it's exactly what Ash was saying a second ago. I've got this awesome stat block, but all I have are either, let's say, multi-attack actions where I get to deal some damage and I'm directly threatening, or I have an action which is some debuff, which is interesting. It's, maybe it's a cool spell, maybe it's a cool rider effect that like, hey, not a lot of damage here, but it's going to set me up next turn. But in the overall action economy, I'm throwing away a turn to do a thing just so next round of combat feels better. And then the players save on a saving throw and it didn't matter anyway. So I basically wasted a round of combat and a quarter of this creature's life, or even up to a third or a half if I have well-optimized player characters. In PF2, with the 3 action economy, you have the menu in front of you. You have what's available to in front of you. The strategy of driving these monsters feels so much better, which ultimately creates better combat for you. You're having more fun as a GM. I promise you, your players are having more fun too because they feel more engaged. They feel more threatened. They feel like their skills are actually getting tested against these monsters. So for all this reason, I love combat in PF2 from the GM's perspective.
It feels like you get to use more of your abilities. Like in 5e, you have all these cool like debuff and stuff things that make some monsters unique, but you're not going to use any of those because they have a good chance of failing. And then, I've wasted my entire turn and the monster didn't even really get to do anything cool before it beefed it. Yep. Whereas in Pathfinder 2, especially with harder encounters, the combats can go longer than 3 rounds. And so you'll get an opportunity to use cool stuff more. There may be some growing pains, I would say, for people who are used to 5th edition and are used to hitting things consistently, especially if you're fighting against a boss monster, which are supposed to be like 2, 3, or even 4 levels ahead of your players. They're not going to be doing that all the time, which is kind of the point. But that is a thing that's your group, if you're trying to convert them to Pathfinder 2, that's a growing pain they're going to have to come to terms with.
One particular aspect of monsters that I love in PF2, I feel like there's a word that I'm searching for. I can't remember what it is. It's like the summary of these things, but it's curses, diseases, and poisons.
Oh, afflictions.
Thank you, afflictions. I was searching for the word. I'm like, it's lost in my head. Okay. Curses, diseases, and poisons are way more interesting in PF2. They're more common. And ultimately, it can both create storytelling through dealing with whatever the affliction is that your players are dealing with, as well as, again, we always talk about resource attrition in 5e, and resource attrition is important in Pathfinder as well. But in addition to this, like not catching a curse, not picking up a disease, not being poisoned, that's also an additional constraint where either you have to make sure you have the right resources to deal with them at the time, or potentially things are going to get really interesting. I have a particular disease that I want to talk about later in the episode when we talk about one of the monsters in the Monster Core. But yeah, good stuff.
The thing that makes Pathfinder 2 monsters so much more interesting than 5e is there's a lot of use of conditions and stuff like that because the condition system is so robust in Pathfinder 2. A lot of monsters engage with that. It's not just a thing that sometimes happens, and those can be very cool. But what's also great about it is that every creature has a weakness. Even if it's not like the weakness thing where it takes extra damage from a certain type, that does exist and it's more common in Pathfinder 2 than in 5e, where vulnerability is next to non-existent outside of like a skeleton. But if you're not able to hit something, then maybe go for one of its saves. If you realize one of its saves is pretty good, chances are one of its saves is not as good as the rest. And that's what makes like knowledge of creatures and using recall knowledge actually really helpful in certain circumstances, because it will tell you what the weaknesses of those creatures are. It's just a really engaging system, and it makes monsters feel interesting, dynamic, and unique to fight against.
Okay, cool. So monsters in PF2 are a lot of fun. As a GM, it's a lot of fun to drive. I think it's better. It's more engaging a lot of times for players at your table. With that, let's talk about the Monster Core. So we are talking about a book that it is a remaster. You know, there's multiple bestiaries in PF2. This is primarily a remaster of Bestiary 1, but there are some other products that came in. I guess with that, let's maybe approach it that way. Let's talk about what's out, what's new, and what's changed.
The things that are out they make sense. It's things that were created by either Wizards of the Coast or TSR specifically for Dungeons and Dragons. So creatures that were made whole cloth for D&D. So owlbears, mind flayers, rust monsters, things like that. If you could look at it and say like, yes, this is very clearly a thing that came from D&D and only from D&D, those things are largely gone.
No, that makes a lot of sense. So like ghosts, for instance, those are obviously created by D&D.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Fairies, ghosts, dragons, all of those things entirely created.
Well, it's Dungeons and Dragons.
All we're left is an animated broom. That's it.
Sweeping my lies under the rug.
More than you would expect is public domain stuff. Like a lot of these monsters come from mythology. So people would be like, well, they took all of the D&D, what's left? A lot, actually. Quite a bit.
Most of it, honestly.
The big two that are gone that everybody's talking about is obviously owlbears. Owlbears were a big thing.
Can't get around that.
Yeah, and Intellect Devourers. Intellect Devourers are still in the monster manual, but they are reskinned and flavored a different way. They're called Zoarians now, and they have their own unique sort of flavor to them, but they are like a brain that can take over your body, so it's kind of the same thing.
I feel like in the spirit of owlbear, they should have gone with brain dog, but here we are with Zoarian. And that's what it looks like. It's on 4.
It is a brain dog, yeah.
In retrospect, probably a better name was Zoarian than brain dog.
And brain dog? I prefer Brain Kitty, which is really fun if you played Baldur's Gate 3 all the way through.
Oh, yeah, because it can turn into a kitty. Yeah.
Kitty! Yeah.
We love us. This is a us favorite household.
I think I did call this one out. Rust Monster is completely gone. So famously, a bunch of early D&D creatures were created when Gary Gygax went into a dollar store and bought a little bag of just weird little monster toys from China, I guess. They were all just like, look at this weird creature. It doesn't have a name. Whatever. It's a bag of toys for $1. What do you want? So he took all of those and made monster stats for them, and that's how we got definitely the Rust Monster, Bullets, I think Umber Hulks, and maybe also Owlbears. I'm not 100% certain on.
Yeah, there's a legend, I don't know if it's true or not, that Beholders came from Gary Gygax woke from a nightmare where he just saw eyes and saw his son's soccer ball. And he was just like, I can make that into a monster.
I would believe that, yeah. Oh yeah, Beholders, not in there.
Well, yeah, I don't think they were in there originally, because that is so iconic to D&D. Yeah, same with Mind Flayers. I don't think Mind Flayers were ever in Pathfinder. But
I can't remember if they were in the SRD. Anyway, so those things are all gone. And that's fine. If there were stats for them in Bestiary 1, etc., you could still go and use those. They still technically, they still work. Like, the rules haven't changed enough that it's a problem. We will never see them appear again in official Pathfinder content.
Yeah.
And also, they'll still be on Archives of Nethys. You might notice that there's going to be, like, the legacy creature, and then there's going to be the remastered version of the creature. For some of these things that didn't get replaced, but they were in one of the original bestiaries, you're just going to find it as a legacy creature. Still available. Nobody's going to take it away, I think.
Hopefully.
I mean, they can't come into your house and take it, I guess. If they
go into our Archives of Nethys and take it.
If they do revoke the OGL successfully, yes, Archives of Nethys would have to take it down, which would be a sad day.
And not to say that they won't. I don't know that I've seen any commitment that they're absolutely going to keep all of that legacy content posted.
I don't actually think that they would have to, because it's free content. They're not making any money off of it. So
you're still distributing intellectual property without permission. I guess it's under the.
I don't want to talk about this anymore.
That's not wrong episode for this. Yes. All right. Randall is correct.
So that's what got deleted. Let's talk about what's new.
There's a lot of new things. Like, all of those things that got taken out, your red dragons, your blue dragons, your silver dragons, all those things, owlbears, all those things that are gone have all been replaced by cool new stuff. The earliest things you'll find in the book, like the earliest new thing, is there's a little sidebar with some content warnings. These are monsters. They do things that are scary and unpleasant. So Paizo put in a little sidebar and said, like, here are some potentially traumatic topics that people might be uncomfortable with, and here are the monsters that deal with those things. If you don't want those things, maybe just don't use those monsters.
Yeah, if you do a session 0, if there's a lot of templates, I think we have one on RPGBot that we'll link in the show notes, where you can kind of solicit for folks like, hey, what are your lines and what are your veils? Lines we don't cross, veils we don't talk about. If you have hard lines for your game that you don't want to cross, I really love this content warning structure, because it's literally one place to go look and find out for this table, either these creatures don't make it to the table ever, or if I do, I just know that I'm not going to leverage certain aspects of their background or maybe certain abilities that they have.
Yeah.
Easy peasy.
Lemon squeezy.
Correct.
All right. So we talked about these a little bit in when we reviewed Rage of Elements. Elemental Scamps, they're a whole new thing. So these are replacing Mephits from D&D. Mephits, the weird little imp-looking elemental dudes. Scamps are weird little elemental, like, bats, I guess. They've got, like, big bug eyes and big ears and cute little teeth.
They're adorable. Let's be
adorable, yeah.
like Mephits looked like imps, like impish creatures, and they'd be hued a color to go with whatever thing that we were dealing with. These things, like, I want plushies of them. I'm sorry. I miss, my kids want plushies of them.
No, you want plushies of them. It's okay. It's okay.
Look, sometimes it's both, all right?
You.
Yeah. Look, I still have some number of those plushies on the desk behind me. Yeah.
Okay. The one that's over your right shoulder is absolutely haunting. That is the worst thing ever created.
The Yeti from...
It's just got... All I can see, because it's pixels, right? So I've just got these like little teeth just coming out.
Yeah.
Great.
I love these scamps. They're adorable. Yeah, they're very cute. So much better than Mephits, in my opinion. Mephits just look hideous.
Yeah. I mean, their stats are also pretty cool. Like, they fly, they cast a couple of spells, they have a breath weapon. They don't explode when you kill them like Mephits do, which, honestly, good riddance. I hated that mechanic.
My only TPK came because my DM added just a handful of Mephits, not considering like the cascading grenade damage.
Yeah, those mud Mephits in Baldur's Gate 3 were very annoying.
Yeah, still are too. Yeah. Okay.
Still do, but they used to too.
Okay, so we mentioned this already, but there are new dragons. They're so cool.
Yeah, they're very cool.
I have played D&D since 3rd edition was just the core rulebooks. And I've got to say, like, when I know there's a dragon fight coming up, I am hyped. Like, I am always excited to fight a dragon. 3rd edition had this big problem where all dragons were spellcasters. So as a DM, to run a dragon encounter, you either had to pretend that they're not spellcasters, in which case they're underpowered, or you basically had to build a complete sorcerer that happened to be a dragon. And then, of course, that led to the problem that dragons are essentially just powerful sorcerers that happen to be a flying lizard, and the fact that they're a dragon didn't really matter all that much. So 4th edition and 5th edition reverse that heavily. They're basically just flying wizards that breathe damage on you, but don't really do anything noteworthy or magical. They have the best treasure, they have the most treasure, sometimes they're scary, but mechanically they're just not very interesting. The most exciting parts of dragons in 5e are their lair actions. And unless you're fighting the dragon in its lair, you just might never see those, and that sucks.
I really like what they have done with dragons. So coming from 5e, we have our good aligned metallic dragons, we have our evil aligned chromatic dragons, and we have our neutral aligned.
They are neutral. Yeah.
Neutral aligned gem dragons. And no, they're not new products. They've been around since 2nd edition.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Well, they got repackaged for me recently.
Yeah.
So what they're doing with PF2, if you read this, there's a sidebar, you can get into it. But essentially, I think we're going to describe some of these dragons. I don't know if we're going to hop into all 8 of them. But essentially, we have 8 new flavors of dragon, 2 from each of the magic traditions in PF2. So that's now how we're thinking of our alignment. So it's no longer good aligned, neutral, evil. It's magic aligned. So we have our arcane dragons, our divine dragons, our occult dragons, and our primal dragons.
And also, that's another thing to point out is that Pathfinder 2 has completely done away with alignment. Alignment is not a factor in anything anymore, which was good. I didn't really like alignment, so bye.
Wasn't helping, and now it's gone.
Yeah, and it also allows them to make more nuanced creatures. In place of alignments, they've now used the terms holy and unholy to refer to specific creatures. So holy refers mostly to celestials, and then unholy would refer to, like, fiends, undead, and certain other creatures that do extra damage to each other and take extra damage from each other. So they kind of cancel each other out that way. The 8 new dragons, Arcane has Fortune and Mirage dragons. Divine has a split between 2 dragons. There's a Holy Divine Dragon, which is, remember I just mentioned holy and unholy. A Holy Divine Dragon and an Unholy Divine Dragon. So the Holy Divine Dragon is called an Imperial, and an Unholy Dragon is called Diabolic. Makes sense. The Primal Dragons are Adamantine and Horned, and the Occult Dragons are Conspirator and Omen. They're just rad names, better than Blue Dragon, Red Dragon, One Fish, Two Fish, Blood Fish, Blue Fish.
I feel like Horned Dragon is like the weird one out here. They all have horns.
But this one's a special. No. Yeah. Nope. Not gonna.
It's basically a rhinoceros that happens to be a dragon. Like, mechanically, also.
Also, each of the dragon families are described as having like different sort of, behaviors. The primal dragons are like more bestial, follow on instinct, less likely to engage you in conversation, and more like wild beasts.
I think a comparison to our rhinoceros is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, the horned dragon has awesome capabilities. Like, look at this. This is really cool. So it's a 2-action attack, impaling charge. Wait. Yeah, okay, that's fair. Maybe it is a rhinoceros.
Yeah, it's a rhinoceros.
Oh. All right, that's fine.
There really is just so much to like about these. So I hadn't really dug into how dragons worked in PF2 because I figured, like, I'll look into this someday when I need to kill players with dragons, or if I'm ever going to fight a dragon and feel like cheating. Dragons have a lot of cool stuff going for them. The classic metallic and chromatic dragons, like, they have a lot of the same problems that 5e dragons do, where they're boring and they're basically flying lizards with a breath weapon. They do also have some innate spellcasting, which is cool, but like, other than the innate spellcasting, honestly, they don't have that much going for them. But they do have 2 really, really cool abilities that all dragons have. Draconic Frenzy, which is basically just multi-attack if you're coming from 5e. You get 3 attacks for 2 actions. It's cool. And then Draconic Momentum. So when dragons use their breath weapon, it has cooldown, usually 1d4. With Draconic Momentum, it's a passive. If they score a critical hit, their breath weapon automatically recharges. Using the breath, Yeah, using the breath weapon is 2 actions. So they have 1 action left, so they can use a breath weapon, make a strike, score a crit, and then just repeat. Terrifying.
Yeah. Now, imagine somebody in the party is really easy to crit on, because remember, it isn't just a d20 that gets you a crit. If you beat the check by 10 and you're successful, that success becomes a critical success.
Yeah, and if the dragon,
if you beat it by 10, you have succeeded.
If the dragon's smart enough, they'll just be like, "Oh, you have low AC. I'm going to farm you for free breath."
Exactly.
To death.
But I do feel like you're doing kind of a disservice to some of these dragons, because they're very cool in terms of what they can do. It's not just like lizards who can breathe on you.
Oh, no. Sorry. I was talking about like the old metallic dragons and chromatic dragons.
Okay,
like
gotcha.
The pre-remaster. Like these ones,
gotcha.
That is the absolute floor, and the least interesting new dragon is that plus some stuff. So like they are all so much cooler than that.
Yeah, like, I mean, even adamantine dragons, which are basically just like really tough dragons that work on instinct and are flying lizards with breath, they breathe rocks at you, which is freaking wild. Like they breathe out and boulders just come at you. My favorite, though, is fortune dragons. They can eat magic, capture a spell, which is so cool, and they breathe force damage.
Read that. Okay, read the capture spell. If you don't have it in front of you, I do.
You read it. It's in front of you then.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So capture spell, it's a reaction. The trigger, the dragon succeeds or critically succeeds on a saving throw against a spell. The effect, the dragon attempts to capture a portion of the spell's magic to feed themselves. They attempt to counteract the spell, counteract rank 5, counteract modifier plus 20. If successful, the dragon is unaffected by the spell and regains 1 expended spontaneous spell slot. Other subjects are affected by the spell normally. So think about that. Like, you go to attack it, and as a reaction, it effectively gets a counterspell, awesome modifiers on top of it, and then gains 1 of its own spell slots back. So it's like, you've literally just played my trap card. You're
gonna put Cloud Kill on me? No, yummy magic. It's
I
very
really like their share the wealth action.
What does that do?
Oh gosh, so fortune dragons, like they absorb magic, including magic items, clings to them. Like the art of them, they're just covered in items. They wear magic swords as lit piercings. One of their actions is called Share the Wealth, and they shake like a wet dog and throw the treasure all over them and damage everything in a 30-foot radius.
I missed that.
They can only do that once, though, and then they're no longer covered in treasure. But they have another action that lets them dive into their hoard to cover themselves in treasure again. So they just Scrooge McDuck to rearm.
It's a great dragon that embodies the arcane type of dragon. Like just a wizard in his tower eating magic and magic items. Perfect. Absolutely brilliant.
This section also talks about like the appearance between different tradition of magic. Those types of dragons all have like some similar characteristics cosmetically. The occult dragons all use their wings as a secondary set of legs, essentially. So like most dragons walk on 4 legs. Occult dragons use their wings as their front legs and use their forepaws, I guess, their front claws. They use those for other things, quote unquote, in the text.
What does that mean?
That's what, yes, you have to look at the art. But in both of the pieces of occult dragon art, they're clutching something in their little grabbies. So it's like they're standing on their wings and holding some item that they really, really like. It's just like every occult dragon you ever see is just holding some little trinket and then walking on their wings.
Mine!
Like, I realize you're CR20, but you are adorable.
Me to melt my face away. I think you talked about it earlier, but I want to maybe explicitly talk about it. So the default stat sheet, there are spells they're likely to cast available for the young dragon, for the adult dragon. And so if you want to put a spell list together, you just, boom, you can put it together. It's going to make perfect sense.
Yeah.
But they use that word tends to. And so as a GM, you have the ability, you can be looking at this. Here's some guidance for about what's appropriate, and then to keep this at the appropriate level. But of course, you could hop in and you could absolutely swap these things out if something makes more sense for the story you're trying to tell.
Yeah. Let's see. Mechanically, if you haven't looked at how dragons work, the Draconic Frenzy and Draconic Momentum abilities that I mentioned earlier. If you want to make your dragon a spellcaster, you just swap those out for spellcasting. So you don't have to change the level. It still fits exactly in whatever adventure you're using them for. So it's like, do I want this dragon to be Scary Dragon? Do I want this dragon to be Flying Sorcerer? You get to pick. It's nice.
Yeah, that's great.
So Ash mentioned earlier the holy unholy thing. So we haven't seen that appear a whole lot until now. Creatures that are holy or unholy are specifically aligned to previously good or previously evil. Like Ash mentioned, those creatures will typically have vulnerability or resistance to one, the other, or both. So like Celestials will have resistance to holy damage and then weakness to unholy damage. So like Ash said, Fiends and Celestials very frequently kill each other very fast. Now, this is going to be really exciting based on the previews that Paizo has given us. When we get the champion in Player Core 2, champions will also get the holy or unholy trait, depending on which version of champion you pick. They will get to deal that bonus damage to those creatures very easily. So like undead are going to have unholy very frequently. So champions, again, I can't say good aligned, any holy champion is going to be massively more effective against those creatures than any other comparable character. It feels thematically appropriate, in my opinion.
Cool. Do we want to hop in and kind of hit what's different? Like, what are some of the subtle changes that you're noticing in this book?
Let's see. There's a lot of stuff in here that was probably just snuck in, or like they made minor quality of life improvements. I had to go do some digging around, like read some blog posts, YouTube videos, etc. They made some changes to improve balance at very low levels. So some like level 1 and 2 creatures had unusually high attack bonus or AC, so it made them very difficult to fight for low level characters. So they worked on those numbers and just brought the math more where it was supposed to be.
Yeah, in that same vein, so there were like the elite adjustment and weak adjustment blocks prior to this. They've changed that so that if you do the elite adjustment block, you're trying to make a creature a little bit more stronger. Instead of adding a level, it's going to add 2 levels to -1 and 0 level creatures. Similarly, if you weaken a creature, if you weaken a level 1, you're actually knocking it all the way back to -1. And that was again in the spirit of let's have things appropriately leveled, where adding 10 points, 10 HP to a creature at level 5, not super impactful. Adding 10 HP to a -1 level creature really is a very different level creature at such low levels.
Yeah.
So this made a ton of sense too.
Probably the most noticeable change that people will recognize, especially if you're pretty familiar with how the old bestiary, the looks of a lot of creatures have changed. Some people are outcrying because they like the old ones. One of the biggest changes was to archons, which are kind of like angels but different. They tried to move away from the more humanoid angel things that's kind of ties them back to, D&D, and more embraced the weird Abrahamic depictions of angels that are kind of like eldritch monsters, which I'm all for.
Yeah.
I think that's great. Less hot winged angels in my setting, although I realized a lot of people were attached to that. The one that everybody is...
You're not afraid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please do not look at me or I will blind you and your head will explode. But one of the big ones that people are pretty mixed on, or at least like there's a subset of people that are very, very against the changes, which is Leshies are now just 100% cute. I personally thought they were cute anyway, but some people liked their freaky Leshies, which, okay. I don't care. I like the Leshies. I think the Leshies are adorable. Even the creepy mushroom ones were adorable. I'm sorry. So you're fooling yourself if you think that they were not 100% cute before.
I'm kind of with you on that one, Ash. Yeah. I want an ugly, cute Leshy. I want to take a plant that you look at and you're just like, oh no, and then turn that into a Leshy. Like, you ever seen a plant that you're just like, I feel bad for you?
Yeah, exactly.
The old Leshies?
Yeah.
I mean, in my Pathfinder game,
Randall has a physical copy of A Few Flowers More, and it's holding up the dandelion lion dandy Leshy. Fighting, I don't know what that is.
It's adorable.
It doesn't matter what it's fighting. Yeah,
it's adorable. I don't know what you're talking about.
It's adorable.
But they're now even cuter, which, yes, I will squee all day. I'm a girl. What do you expect? But yeah, no, my DM in my current Pathfinder game, my dad, who is dead, who lives in the Feywild because that's where druids go when they die, has a leshy companion who is a cactus who always wants hugs, and it's adorable, and I love it. Yeah, I know. The only person
leathers.
Well, the only person who can hug it is our monk who has DR10, so it just doesn't matter.
Okay, so your monk can give them some next level hugs. All right.
Yeah, that's great. So
next
some of the other
hugs is in the chat. That's
so some of the other big changes that might not be obvious if you don't really care about lore, but that I appreciate is changes to the lore, especially that change things closer to like their real world mythological equivalent, or also trying to avoid some of the more problematic elements of some of the creatures before. Like one that I really appreciated, gnolls are now called kolos. They're functionally the same thing, but they did make them less like, this is chaotic evil. Very chaotic evil. Like if you look at the descriptions of them between the bestiary and now, it's like night and day. Like gnolls are described as horrible abominations unto nature that feast on human flesh, worship demons, have slaves, and all of just the awful, cliche evil race guy. That's no longer the case. They don't mention slaves. They mention that maybe they eat an occasional human burger. But then who doesn't on occasion? But that they but that they are basically like people you wouldn't want to be neighbors with, that pride themselves on finding creative solutions to out of the box problems, and more of like it's less of a selfish culture and more of like we do underhanded tactics in order to survive because that's kind of what we have to do. And trying to approach a thing fairly is just a recipe for getting you killed. And also that they value their community, which I think is it's funny from a null perspective, but I like that they're doing that. Like they value one another in a way, like they respect and elevate their peers. They just don't extend that same courtesy to outsiders. So yeah, that's cool. And I like that they're doing that. I like that they're allowing themselves to have more nuanced approaches to classically evil, quote unquote, races. The one irritating thing, I know why they did it, but it's just because organization is a nightmare for me. They took away the Golem family, the Golem family. Yeah. So it's they're all named different things.
Golem,
No.
It's a
no. Like
not the Golem. Okay.
Like a clay golem or a steel golem. They're all called different things now. And they're not near each other, and it's a nightmare to find them. But the reason they did that is because golems are associated with Jewish religion. And if you're fighting against them, you're usually doing something wrong. So they wanted to be more sensitive to that cultural identity and to move away from it a bit.
Which, so all of the golems that were in previous, like in Bestiary 1, for instance, are still there. You have to go look for them. We always talk about PF2's tagging system. It's awesome. Look for constructs, and you're probably pretty quickly like, iron and construct, you're going to find the Iron Warden, which is the replacement for the Iron Golem, for instance.
Similar change, and I think they made this in Bestiary 1, actually. Liches no longer have a phylactery, which is, again, an artifact associated with Jewish religion. They now have a soul cage, which, honestly, I kind of like that name better. It also tells you what it is. Yeah, when you say the word phylactery, most people are like, you made that word up. I'm like,
nope, it's a real thing.
Yeah, you can look it up and trying to figure out. Anyway.
Yeah.
What's interesting, if you search for Golem in the Monster Core, the only thing you're going to find 5 entries about the product identity Paizo Golem in the actual
That's right.
Yeah,
because the Paizo logo is a golem.
Yep.
Yeah. Interesting. I wonder if they'll rename that. Like, oh god, that has to be some legal nonsense, like changing your trademarks.
Yeah, I think they
this
probably.
Is great. I'm not. Yeah,
if they're gonna change it, it's gonna be a nightmare to change it, and it's probably that's why they haven't changed it yet.
Yeah, otherwise they would have done it with these books.
While we're on the subject of golems, a thing that they addressed that was a big complaint with golems previously was that golems, pretty notoriously in Pathfinder 2, are resistant to most magic. except for like maybe one or two things. Like they're immune to most magic, I should say. So it basically made spellcasters feel completely useless during fights with golems. So they've came up with what I think is a pretty elegant compromise. Instead, golems still have like specific energy types that they're weak to, or that they aren't resistant to, but everything else, they say they're resistant 10 to magic damage, which I think is a good compromise. So it's just like, you can still contribute to the fight. It's not going to feel like, well, I'm going to sit here while the barbarian wails on it for a bit.
Yeah, I mean, to give a specific example, so if I look at the Iron Warden, their resistance is physical 15, except adamantine, spells 15, except acid, and spells that cause rust.
Yeah.
So kind of intuitive. If I'm gonna cut metal, I need a harder metal. If I'm going to destroy metal with magic, it needs to be things that ruin fine silverware.
Oh yeah, and that's a thing that I feel I should mention to new GMs of Pathfinder 2, which I didn't know right away. If it says that it's resistant physical damage, that includes magical physical damage. So just because you have a magical weapon doesn't mean you're going to be bypassing that resistance. It's not like 5e. If it is resistant to non-magical physical damage, it will call that out specifically. But physical damage just means all physical damage it's resistant to. So something to keep in mind.
And then maybe one more point here for folks who are like, deep lingering into 5e. It's like, why you're calling out resistance and you're adding a number to it? What does that mean? Remember, if you have resistance, you just knock that much damage off. So imagine the Nightmare being a low level creature. Like I'm a level 2 fighter and I'm stabbing an Iron Warden without an adamantine sword. You're going to have a bad day.
Yeah, because like you're going to if you do like 10 damage, it is, it has damage resistance 15, which means your damage is effectively canceled out. So
you deal 0 damage.
Yeah, you do 0
and this is a level 13 creature.
Yeah.
So don't fight it at level 2. It's that easy.
Yeah. And weakness applies in the opposite direction. So it'll take more damage of the equal value. So if it's weakness 10 to acid, that means if you do an acid damage, it's going to take 10 more damage. So,
which is why you'll frequently see abilities that deal like 1 point of damage. So, and you're going to think, oh, that's awful. It only does 1 point of damage. Yes, but that's specifically there to trigger vulnerabilities.
Yeah, occasionally.
Yeah.
Alchemists have all the fun.
Hey, it's Pathfinder, man. There's going to be niche abilities everywhere. That's just the nature of Pathfinder. So a few other monsters I want to call out that I think are cool. Ghouls got a rework. They're now more like aristocrats who occasionally, partake in the succulence of the flesh. So they're kind of like vampires, except they eat flesh instead of drink. They're not like those Gollum type Gollum from Lord of the Rings, Gollum type things that like are hunched over and eat flesh. They have suits now. So they're a corporate overlord. I don't know.
Oh, oof. I don't like this change. This makes me sad.
I like it. I think it's cool.
I feel like it's stepping too much on the vampire's identity. Like, the vampires are supposed to be like, we're noble hedonist aristocrats who live forever. And now ghouls is like, okay, so you drink them, I'll eat them, and we'll just share.
Well, I think it actually kind of makes sense from a lore perspective, because in Golarion, which is the main world of Pathfinder, there's multiple cities that have a sizable ghoul population. And people are always like, how does that work? With a bunch of like, Gollum-y type of things just running around. I think that I think ghasts are still here, which are largely kind of similar. So I think the issue they were running into is like, ghasts and ghouls are very similar. How do we make them different? And so that's kind of what they set on. If you don't like it, hey, guess what? The legacy is there for you. I personally think they're cool. Also, kobolds.
Wait, let's not leave ghouls yet. Okay.
Yes.
So for folks who have played Pathfinder 2 and have used the legacy ghouls, you're used to the idea of ghoul fever. Ghoul fever was a disease that would eventually kill you and turn you into a ghoul. We got rid of that. What we have, I think, is better. Okay. So potentially you are going to be cursed with forbidden cravings.
Okay. Don't care for that.
Yep. This is going to get a little dark. Just everybody at home, just come with me. I'm going to keep it not so dark.
Content warning.
I'm gonna keep things as light as I can.
Yeah.
Pumpkin morning snack.
So the way curses, diseases, and poisons, afflictions in general, work in PF2 is they have stages. Every stage will have a specified duration and a saving throw. And at the end of that duration, you're going to make another saving throw. If you critically succeed, you reduce your stage by 2. So if you were stage 1 and you succeed or critically succeed, you're no longer afflicted. You're done with it. Okay. Critically succeed, reduce your stage by 2. Succeed, reduce your stage by 1. Fail, increase your stage by 1. Critically fail, increase your stage by 2. So think about this from the story aspect. If you don't have the ability within the party to get rid of the affliction, you're going to carry it with you. So now that we understand how stages advance, I want to describe the progression of the curse, which is forbidden cravings. Stage 1, carrier with no ill effects. Stage 2, 2d6 void damage, and the target is sickened 1 until it consumes raw meat. Stage 3, same as stage 2. Stage 4, same as stage 2, unless the target has consumed raw meat in the past 24 hours. Then it takes 46 void damage and is sickened 2 until it consumes raw meat. Okay, so you're feeling compelled. You need to do this. You need to do this. We get all the way to stage 5. Stage 5, if the creature has eaten raw meat in the past 24 hours, it dies and rises as a ghoul. Otherwise, return to stage 4.
So if you don't give in and eat raw meat, you take the 46 void damage and you're sickened 2. But if you eat the raw meat, you can die and come back as a ghoul.
Yes.
Oh, that's
so
brutal.
you got to get a little bit unlucky to let it advance that far.
It's very cool. It's very cool. And the way that you get infected by this is a ghoul grabs you and whispers sweet nothings into your ear.
Really?
I'm not kidding.
Ghoul whispers.
That's how it works.
Wow.
Ghouls are rad, man.
Someone walks up to you and just leans in and whispers like, "Hey, you look like a snack."
Yeah. Hey baby, what your Facebook is? And that disgusts you so much that you now have a craving for raw flesh.
Extremely rare steak.
It also what's funny is it doesn't actually call out that you have to eat human meat. It just has to be raw meat. So that's,
I think, honestly, to let people run the game how they might want to run it, that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
And we don't have to let it get so dark.
We still have that archetype of ghoul. So if you become a ghoul, you can now take an archetype of ghoul.
Does sushi qualify as raw meat?
Yep.
Or are we going to do the meat versus fish dichotomy?
No. It's going to be great. No? Absolutely.
Okay. I would count it. Count it.
Yeah. Also, tartare.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beef tartare. Yeah. Don't eat
sushi.
Don't eat raw meat, or you'll turn into a ghoul. Yeah. They did lose their paralysis feature, which sad, but
they've had that forever.
But paralysis kind of sucks, so I'm kind of okay with that. I think it's the one condition in Pathfinder 2 that I still am not a huge fan of. I don't like anything that just completely takes you out of the fight. But you
wanted to hit kobolds, right?
Yes, kobolds. So
okay, sorry, I wanted to hit that. I was excited about it.
I've always loved kobolds. I think they're great. They've always been tied to dragons. That is changed a bit, but also kind of stays the same in the fact that kobolds can now be influenced by where they're born, which is so cool. If they're born in the Hells, you might get a diabolic kobold, or if they're born in the Fae, you might get a Fae kobold. And that's glorious, and I love it. The one thing that is maybe disappointing to people is they're no longer as associated with traps as they were. Like, they still have like a trap-like feature, but they don't get the bonus to craft anymore, which sucks. But kobolds are still fun, and I still love them, and I will use them every chance I get.
So in the pre-remaster version of the kobold, their ancestry feats give them a lot of benefits that make them really good at using snares, which is basically the player-friendly version of traps. So there's a snare crafter archetype, and then rangers can do a bunch with snares. Like, if you want to really lean into snares, you build a kobold ranger. And since they're moving away from the trap association in the monster stats, I'm really worried that they're going to take that away from us in the player core too when we get kobolds as an ancestry again. Like, it might be one of those things where they have to, because they have to move away from D&D's idea of kobolds, but like, I want my happy little trap man. My little scurry lizard. I want to be small but mighty, and I want to throw traps in hallways.
It's like, I mean, could they patch that with just an ancestry feat that you have to come from a small ancestry to get access to. Like,
sure.
A few other people get the toy too, but at least then like you still have it. I can put it together.
Yeah, that would probably be fine. I mean, technically the legacy content is still allowed, but there are going to be people who only play with the remaster material. Like that's going to be a thing.
That is actually something like I'm thinking about. So I think we pretty much have our group convinced to do Kingmaker as like a 1 to 20 adventure. I'm stoked for it. But it's pre-remaster content, so I'm actually wondering, like, I'm thinking about, I'm going to look up some common monsters and just see, like, okay, is it a remaster? How much would it break things if I go to this? Like, I want to embrace the new content and kind of bring it in as much as possible. So also, I guess I get to see what that's like.
Speaking as a DM who's currently running some Pathfinder 2 games, it is a nightmare trying to suss out what's remaster and what's not, and which you need to use. Oh, God.
Okay, so there's one big rules change that they announced, like they specifically called this out as like, here is something we are changing for a reason. They announced this early in the remaster process. A lot of creatures have abilities that have grab, knockdown, pull, push, something like that. So when they hit you with a strike, just automatically they will trigger those effects. So like if it's a grab attack, they'll hit you with a strike and then you are grabbed, which is one of the grapple conditions. This didn't require a check. It just happened automatically. That was really useful for a lot of things. Like it made some creatures very scary. It made a lot of summoned creatures scary, even though their damage might not keep up since summoned creatures are always so much lower level than you. They've changed this so those effects are no longer automatic. Now they get to make an athletics check as a free action. So like, I think giant ants have grab. So like they bite you and then they make an athletics check to grab you as a free action. This gives them the ability to potentially score a critical success. They might fail. So the effect is much more variable. And there were certain character options that would give you some circumstance bonus or something to resist exactly this. But those character options existed in a world where grab or whatever was automatic. So those options never made sense. So they made this change partially to make those character options make sense and partially so that players have a chance to not be affected by these things.
Or affected worse.
Yeah.
It's a mixed bag, I think. I think there's some positives to it. I think there's some drawbacks to it. It can make certain creatures less scary that were scary before because they punched above their own weight. But it can make scary monsters even more scary because now if they're like if they're a beefy monster that has the tendency to crit on like, lower fortitude party members, now they're going to be restrained, which is going to be brutal. So yeah, it's a mixed bag. I think I get why they did it. I don't hate it. I think it really just kind of depends on the monster and the situation. So
my one big problem with it is it's going to slow down play a whole lot with those creatures.
Mm-hmm.
Like we had the same problem back in 3rd edition where creatures had improved grab or whatever. And like they would attack you. And if they hit, they now get to make a check to grapple you. And it's like, oh God, look up the grapple rules, do all these things. Takes 20 minutes to resolve one attack.
At least the grapple rules are pretty simple in this compared to 3rd edition.
Yeah, so much better.
Yeah.
Okay, so like a lot of people are unhappy with this change. It's fine. I'm not thrilled about it. I don't think the logic behind it was great. And apparently there are a couple of creatures in a couple of creatures in the Monster Core where they have this ability, but they forgot to give these creatures an athletics bonus, so they're just rolling straight strength to try and grapple you. It's only like 1 or 2, so it's probably just an editing error. It wasn't a decision to just make these things bad, but it's still frustrating,
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a mixed bag. I have mixed feelings on it. I think it's going to make some encounters much more dynamic and interesting, and it's going to bog down others, or just make a monster that could punch above its own weight just be a wet noodle now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, your mileage may vary.
Yeah. And it's maybe worth highlighting the expectation, right, is that that check that you make, the check that the GM is making to grab is not being made with a multi-attack penalty. So it could be my 3rd melee attack. I don't have anybody grabbed. By some crazy odds, I managed to make the strike. Now I have just as good of odds of actually successfully doing this grapple as I did on the first 2 attacks as well.
Yeah.
So let's say what we think.
Overall, I think this is a big improvement. I think the design changes that they made for the most part were just objectively good regardless of the context. There are a few things that I'm not super excited about. Like, I think ghouls are too similar to vampires now. I think they could have done something different, but also they have in-world lore that they already stick to. That's a whole thing. Overall, I do think this is a lot better. I'm excited about it. I think I'm almost entirely happy.
Randall?
Ash, what about you?
I'm with Tyler. I think this is mostly a good change. I like the dragons. Like standouts for me are I like the dragons. I like the lore changes and stuff. I think those were needed and welcome. I like the doing away of alignment because alignment was stupid. Yeah, I realize I'm in the minority.
Get off my lawn.
I've
I don't
always
think you're in a minority at all.
I've always hated alignment. People get too attached to their alignment stuff, and it drives me nuts. And it's just like it's a very
or people
2D
ignore it, and so why bother having it at all?
Yeah, exactly. It's a 2D system meant to reduce people down to like a fundamental math, which I'm just not a fan of.
So I love that.
But things I'm not a huge fan of. I get why they did it, but I want my golem family back. I wish kobolds were better at traps. And yeah, the grab, knockdown, pull, push stuff is a mixed bag. But overall, I think definitely they did the best with the crappy position that they were in. And it's definitely an improvement in most aspects. What about you, Randall?
I'm stoked. And honestly, probably more stoked about what this book coming out represents, that Paizo as a company has the PF2 brand, which is a product that is now completely independent of WotC or Hasbro and Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
It is an amazing product. I think it is my favorite tabletop RPG, and it's wholly theirs now. And I think just for the industry, for tabletop in general, for tabletop fans in general, this is a fantastic milestone. And also, these new dragons are dope.
Yeah.
The dragons are definitely the standout for me. Like the dragons were just
they're so cool.
They're so cool. They're just an across the board win.
Yeah.
Just a massive improvement over boring dragons. So yes, if nothing else, this was worth it to get those cool dragons.
And then on top of that, like they didn't close the door. You know, we might get more dragons in these Magic traditions as additional books come out. Exactly.
I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will add more dragons.
They already have canonical, like a bunch of other kind of dragons that they got mentioned in the sidebar. So like there's the sky metal dragons, there's shadow dragons from the netherworld, which we talked about. Sky
metal dragons.
Yeah.
That sounds
that's higher than metal dragons.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome. That sounds like something you'd find in Skyrim. I need sky metal to make you your weapon. Dragonborn.
All right. If you've enjoyed it,
actually,
I was just kidding a second ago.
Yeah, I have a question of the week from Wing Lady. If you want to do that, I saw a while ago that we never did, and I thought it could be a cool one. If you guys want to do it,
let's do it. Yeah,
okay.
I'm stoked.
We have a question of the week this week. It's from this question of the week comes to us from Wing Lady on Discord. If you had to build a character from the starting point of a theme song, what song would you pick? And what build would you extrapolate it from?
Oh, jeez.
What build would you extrapolate from it? I apologize.
Okay, I saw this conversation happen in Discord. I didn't engage in it, nor have I really given any thought. Immediately, my first thought is, I'm going to do the Brady Bunch.
Okay.
And I'm going to do a Necromancer.
Interesting. Are you going to name all of your zombies after the different bunch?
Exactly. Yeah.
I love that. That's fantastic. Yes. Yes. Good on you, sir.
Oh God,
so that's me. What do you folks have?
I don't know, man. I'm not prepared for this.
Get prepared.
Yeah, Get prepared. Normally, Tyler picks the question of the week. He picks it like 2 weeks ahead of time and just spends 2 weeks thinking about it.
Yeah.
That's not really true, but
Ash, buy me time.
I'm trying to think too. Like I thought about this for a while. There's so many good ones.
All right.
You know what I would do? Okay. This is going to be a little bit messed up, but I think it could also be funny if played the right way. A bard who is very interested in making everybody like them and just having as many friends as possible. And it comes from the theme song for Friends.
Yeah.
I'll be there for you because you don't really have a choice. I'll be there.
Your love life's broken, Joe.
Yeah,
that's great.
Okay, I'm not coming up with a satisfying answer, so
the
I'm
bard's
gonna
like,
do.
all my friends are losers. Like everything sucks constantly. Sorry, Tyler. I'm still thinking about our good friend Chandler being the bard.
Chenandlerbong.
Shenandlerbong, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to do what a lot of debaters do when they're failing and struggling to come up with ideas, and I'm going to engage with a logical fallacy, and I'm going to beg the question.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Go on.
So instead of making me pick a song and then pick a build for it, I would say if I was going to do this, someone would have to give me a song, and I will struggle.
Okay.
So like if you were going to do this for a party, like you could walk in and just like pretend you still owned physical albums and just drop one on the table in front of your pretend physical game. Say, this is the theme music for the game. Pick a song on the album. That's your character.
Okay.
Cheers.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Sorry, Ash, do you have a good one?
I do.
Okay, go.
Are you familiar with the Pixies song "Where Is My Mind"?
I can't recall the lyrics, but I'm sure I've heard it many, many times.
Go.
All right, Where Is My Mind? I'm gonna play a spellcaster who is all about astral projection and mind control and taking control of other creatures' bodies. It's not so much that you're asking, where is my mind? You know where your mind is. It's in somebody
where
else.
Is your mind? Alternatively, you could make a character based off of you're insane and you're trying to induce that insanity on other people.
So just
to answer your
Gulag.
question,
Got it.
To answer what you were going to say, Randall, I have one for you for the cheers, where everybody knows your name. I know Neuromancer.
I've never heard that combination of word before.
Yeah.
I believe that was one of the UA. I don't know if it's an official one yet, but it was a wizard that focused on true names.
Oh, God, no.
Yeah.
Oh, God, no.
All
Nope.
right.
Yeah.
I did it.
We don't need true namers back. No, thank you, wizards.
I don't know if
No.
it was Neuromancer is the dream is a dream wizard, but it was one of those things. They did do one that was true name. It was actually a really cool subclass. I don't know if you guys ever saw it, but it was
Nominalmancer.
I can't remember what it's called, but it was a really cool subclass. It was about you finding the true names of things and then being able to do different effects based on those true names.
Okay.
So yeah. Where everybody knows your name. I know your name. It's in my book.
Nice.
I hope we answered your question satisfactorily, Wing Lady. No, we're not getting copyright strikes. Stop.
Yeah. All hail the Leisure Illuminati. I'm Randall James. You'll find me on amateurjack.com and on Twitter and Instagram at JackAmateur.
I'm Tyler Campster. You'll find me on RPGBOT.net, Facebook and Twitter, RPGBOT.net, most other socials as RPGBot.
I'm Asher Eli, and you'll find me following the wild Tarask on X, or Twitter as it should be called, at Graven Ashes. And you can find me studying more of the flora and ecology on YouTube at Ashraven Media. If you want to know how to hunt a specific monster and what their weaknesses and strengths are, then come hire me as your dungeon master and guide to the world of magic at startplaying.games. Link in the description.
I like that one a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Like you should just clip that out and post it somewhere.
Okay, Ash, you raised a horrifying question for me. Okay, Pathfinder lore. Rovagug, the destroyer, the god that's going to eat the multiverse. Rovagug has children, quote unquote, who are a series of kaijus that basically fell off of its back at some point in history.
Yes, familiar.
One of them is the Tarask, the apocalypse engine.
Yep.
And if I remember the lore correctly, the Tarask is supposed to be like the first sign that Rovagug is going to get out. Like Trask shows up and everyone goes, oh no, the world is about to end.
It's like, this is bad, but also it gets worse.
Yeah. What are they going to do? Because the Tarask is definitely one of those creatures that they can't use anymore.
They're just going to use like Bebop and Rocksteady instead.
No, Tarask is actually not a D&D property. It's from
that's right.
It's from
French
lore.
thing.
Yeah, it's from mythology. Yeah. Tarrasque is a monster.
We did a whole episode on this 3 years ago.
It's a monster from French folklore. So yeah, D&D cannot hold claim to it. They can hold claim to their Godzilla-esque version of the Tarrasque, but in all honesty, that was the more boring version of the Tarrasque. So if you've seen like classical depictions of the Tarrasque, it's like a turtle with a face on it and kind of mixed with a dog. So
dorky looking.
Let's see that, because I think that's more awesome than just Godzilla but D&D.
It's just the face of a guy on a giant turtle with grizzly bear feet.
And that's horrifying. Are you kidding me?
They're going to spice it up. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
It looks like a child drew it.
Well, also, I should say Tarrasque is not actually a monster in Pathfinder. They have a ritual that can summon a Tarrasque, but they don't have Tarrasque in there. Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
In the show notes, link to our episode on rituals.
Yeah. And the Tarrasque.
Or, no, it's not a ritual. It's a spell. It's a 10th level spell. It allows you to summon the apocalypse monsters. Yeah.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm done with this world. Let's get it over with.
Yep.
If you've enjoyed the show, please rate and review us on Apple Podcast and rate us on Spotify or your favorite podcast app. It's a quick, free way to support the podcast and helps us to reach new listeners. You'll find links in the show notes. You'll find affiliate links or source books and other materials linked in the show notes, as well as on RPGBOT.net. Following these links helps us to make this show happen every week. If your question should be the question of the week next week, please email podcast@rpgbot.net or message us on Twitter at RPGBOT.Podcast. Please also consider supporting us on Patreon, where you'll find all kinds of great rewards. At any tier, you'll get early access to RPGBOT.content and polls for future content. At our $3 tiers, you'll enjoy your choice of ad-free access to RPGBOT.net or ad-free podcast episodes and access to the live-streamed podcast recordings. At our $5 tiers and above, you'll get all of that, plus access to the RPGBOT.Discord. You'll find us at patreon.com/RPGBOT.
You gotta go where everybody knows your name. And they're always glad you came.
I'd like to make a recall knowledge check to remember this guy's name.
Which guy's name?
Pretty sure it was Norm.
Any guy.
I see. Yeah. Maybe you would do well with being a name wizard. So you could just write down people's names in your book, and then you'd have power over them. It would be great.
All right, team. We have done it.
We have.